I'm Dr. McFarland, and in this episode of Doc Talk, I'm going to talk about the Peavey T-60 and the worst buying decision I ever made. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today is Monday, and from now on I'm going to be releasing a series of videos under the name of Doc Talk. And especially just me talking about my life experience being a musician, some of the struggles that I've had, some of the successes that I've had. And my whole goal at this point is to show that confidence is gained through experience. So I would also like to interview other musicians, either here in Nashville or across the world, to basically get inside their brain and ask them, okay, if you could go back 10 years, 20 years, 15 years, what would you tell yourself at that point? Maybe a little unexperienced, maybe a little less confident than they should have been, and see if we can learn from each other from all these experiences. So what I'm going to talk about today is the Peavey T-60. Now, this guitar within itself is an excellent guitar, but about 18 years ago when I was at the community college, it was my first encounter with the Peavey T-60, and I really didn't know how to appreciate it back then, and I kind of made a dumb move. So let me tell you about that real fast. So if you're a musician like me, I always like to go into guitar stores because you just never know what you're going to find. And basically I was looking around, and there's some amplifiers over here against the wall, and maybe there's some guitars over here. And lo and behold, I saw a Peavey T-60. I was like, wow, what is that? I mean, it had these crazy long horns on it, and it had these knobs and amazing finish. The pickups were really cool looking. It did not have the neck. This is an aftermarket neck that I switched out sometime last year. And this isn't even the exact same guitar I was talking about. This is a guitar that I purchased about a year and a half ago because of this story that I'm trying to unfold right now. So basically I'm looking around and I see the Peavey T-60 and I see the price tag. It's like, well, at the time it was probably around $200, $250, $275, something like that. Really not a whole lot for a typical adult who has an actual job. But at the time I was just a college student and didn't have a whole lot of money. So I was like, well, I'm going to take all my guitar books, mistake number one going through my head. Taking all my guitar books, Tom Petty, Eagles, classic rock hits of the 60s, the 70s, all kinds of really great books to learn from, study from, some kind of like blues book, some kind of jazz book. I'm not really sure at this point. It's been such a long time ago. But I basically drove back to my dorm room, collected all the songbooks that I had, and went back to the store, and I approached the owner there, and he was basically like, well, I could trade you the guitar for the books, but you're still going to have to owe me some money. I was like, alright, well, that's fine. At least I'll get a little bit of discount or something. So he's flipping through the books, and he's like, oh, okay, I can get this much for this one and this much for that one, and kind of totaled it all up. So at the end of the day, I pretty much had to pay around $60 or $80 for the guitar, and he just took all my books and, was going to resell them. I didn't know that at the time. I was just like, well, okay, here's my book. So he gave me money for them, and we made a somewhat even trade. So as I'm driving home with this Peavey T-60 in the back seat of my car, instantly hit with this feeling of buyer's remorse. I don't know if you've ever been through that experience before where you've bought something and then you instantly regret it. The thought just going through my mind at that time was, I just gave away like all my books. It was like, I've had these books for a long time. I started playing guitar back in 1994 when I was 14 years old. And, those were the days of like Bush, Hootie and the Blowfish, So many great bands came out in the 90s right there. and they inspired me to, you know, want to pick up the guitar and do some rocking. So that's what I did. And you know, so you kind of get a little sentimental with things like that. And as soon as they left them out of my hands and, you know, left that store, I was like, oh, what am I doing? You know. So I got this Peavey T-60 in my car. I get it back to the dorm room. You know, I'm playing on it. It's like, all right, this is a pretty cool guitar. You know, it's all right. I think it was the next day, maybe even the next week. I can't remember, because I might have got that guitar on a Friday, and I had a scholarship to play jazz guitar at a little community college down in Sneed. Actually, Boaz, Alabama. They call it Sneed State Community College. And it's kind of showing you where my roots are right here. And basically, I was like, you know, I walked into the jazz room there with this guitar. My instructor was like, "What guitar is that? You know, you're not playing jazz on that thing, are you?" It's like, well, I'm gonna try. You know, I really didn't know how to play jazz that well anyway, so I know a little bit more now than I did back then. But you know, so I played on the guitar for a little while, and you know, it was okay. And but my experience at that time, I couldn't really appreciate the guitar as it was, because I just didn't know a whole lot about it. You know, I knew about Fender Strats, Gibson Les Pauls. I had an Epiphone Sheraton at the time, which I still have. It's a great guitar. But the Peavey T-60 was just like, you know, it was definitely a sleeper guitar at the time. Nobody really knew about them or really even cared about them. Not like they do right now. You know, these guitars are going up in price, actually, and they're getting harder and harder to get for a decent price that people actually want to pay for them. So I keep the guitar for a little while, and probably about 2 weeks went by, and I called the store owner back up. I was like, "Hey, do you think I could get my guitar books back?" He goes, "Oh man, you know, I've already sold some of them, so I mean, you can come back by the store, you can buy them back." I was like, "Okay." So at that point, I was pretty much feeling like an idiot. It was like, all right, so I took all my guitar books, I sold them to this guy in exchange for a guitar I really didn't even know what it was. I just thought it looked cool. You know, because, you know, most guitar players buy guitars that look cool, right? I mean, that's the whole point of buying a guitar. So I go back to the store. I'm looking through, trying to find my books, and he's like got them marked up way high. You know, he's like, "Well, I don't have any money for these things." But the main book that I sold was my Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers Greatest Hits guitar book. And like an idiot, I sold it. And I really shouldn't have, because, you know, that book is really what started me playing guitar. If it wasn't for Free Fallin', Mary Jane's Last Dance, so many other great songs that are in that book, probably wouldn't be the guitar player or the musician that I am today. Because I was constantly strumming on those songs and learning my chords, and which I think is a great way to learn guitar, is, you know, make a list of songs that you want to learn how to play, and then just gradually start, you know, learning how to play the chords, and eventually you'll be a pretty decent guitar player just by learning songs like that. I ended up selling off the guitar to a friend that I went to high school with, and he was like, "Oh yeah, it's a cool guitar, man." You know, him and his brother came by and checked it out, and they ended up buying it from me. So at that point, I was without guitar books, and I was without a guitar, which I had other guitars, you know, in my arsenal, but still, it's like, well, I just wasted all that time and energy for something that I didn't even end up keeping, really. And so that's pretty much one of the biggest mistakes of gear purchasing I've ever made. And, you know, I don't regret it, because I learned a lot from that experience. And because of that, I was about last year sometime, and about a year and a half ago, I was on YouTube, And I was just watching different videos, and I saw this video pop up about the Peavey T-60. It's like, oh, let's click on that and let's watch it a little bit. So after watching the video, I started watching other Peavey style guitar videos. I was like, you know what? Knowing what I know now, I can actually look at this guitar and appreciate it just a little bit more than I did, 18 years ago. And what's cool about the Peavey T-60 is it's got 2 humbucker pickups, which are all Peavey designed. And what happens is when you have the tone knobs rolled all the way up, these actually turn into single coil pickups, which is really neat. And as you start gradually rolling the tone knob down to about 7 or so, you can hear it kind of getting a little darker, a little bit more mid-rangey, and it turns back into a humbucker. So there's a really cool way, this was years before all the coil splitting and coil tapping and all that strange stuff. So you can get a lot of cool sounds out of this guitar. So let's go through a little bit of it here. So here's a bridge pickup on single coil mode. I'm going to roll back the tone knob in real time. You can hear how it changes. So did you hear that? It kind of pushes the front end of the amp a little bit more and grits it up. This is the 101 Mini Reverb from Quilter Labs with the Block Dock 10 TC. And it's a great little combo amp. So that's primarily what I'll use in these kind of videos because it's small and I can pretty much take it anywhere. So okay, back to single coil. Alright, great. Now I go to the middle position. Both pickups are in single coil mode. Alright, very cool. Let's roll both tone knobs back. So that way both pickups are in humbucker mode. Alright, let's kick it over to the neck pickup, and here is a humbucker. Alright, and here is single coil mode. It's got a very smooth, very chimey sound to it. Alright, very cool. Now there is an extra little switch here. This is a phase switch. So what that does, if you go in the middle, it puts the 2 pickups out of phase. I don't quite understand how it all works, but it gives you a different sound. So here's both pickups in single coil mode. So it kind of has a quacky, nasally snarl to it. Here's the bridge pickup in humbucker mode and the neck pickup in single coil. And then both pickups in humbucker. so that is the Peavey T-60, and that is my embarrassing story of not being a very confident musician, not really knowing what I wanted back then, and just kind of really going with my gut instincts. It's like, oh, I see something, I want that. It's like, no, you should probably maybe sleep on it, or at least research a little bit more what a certain piece of gear is before you buy it. Because a lot of times you are going to make a mistake and you're going to end up losing money. And that's something that I've definitely done a lot of. And I want to be able to help you make better gear buying decisions. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. I am Dr. McFarland, and you've been watching Doc Talk on Monday. And I will see you in the next video. Keep rocking. Hey guys, thanks for watching. And if you want to help support me in my efforts here on YouTube, then be sure to check out the description down below. And you'll find a cool link where you can get a nice t-shirt. And your added support will help me make a lot more cool videos. Please check out the link, and I'll see you in the next video.